Good afternoon. Good to go?
Good, sir.
Welcome to the Board of Commissioners meeting, Albany Housing Authority. It's Tuesday, February 10th, 2026. We have a quorum, and we do have someone from the community here to speak, Ms. Wilkinson. Just to remind you that this is a 3-minute timeline. Whatever presentation you have. So feel free, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, I'll just keep coming back until I hit it all, the ballpark. But I am a landlord in the city of Albany, have been, worked with Steve Longo in the past. My concern is, as a landlord, I've had such difficulty dealing with not everyone in the agency, but definitely some people within the Section 8 department. And I feel that there is an aiding and an abetting of tenants by the agency to assist them to walk away owing money, destroying landlord's property, and yet still they can walk away with their vouchers and taxpayer people's dollars. And my concern is, and then in the meantime, I know some people who live in housing, public housing, and they can't even get a paint job from the agency. 10 years, no paint job. 5 years, not having a paint job. My concern is, is the agency, your clients have a hard time finding apartments, especially if they do have a voucher to a degree. It's not just about the money, it's the quality of life that they're going to bring and the quality of life that the landlord is going to provide for them. I happen to be, am I a strict landlord? Yes. But do my tenants live decently? Absolutely. I grew up on Section 8. My mother was a Section 8 woman with 7 kids. So I do believe in the program, but I don't think it should be abused, and I don't think that clients or people that are on Section 8 should be allowed to destroy a landlord's property, leave owing rent, be evicted, and yet still have a voucher to go do it again and again and again. And that is my situation with a client currently that I've sent. She's been evicted, she left owing money, she came in under fraudulent claim that she had 3 people, she's 25, she's got a 3-bedroom voucher, doesn't want to go to work, want to run a beauty salon out of the apartment during the day. I brought this all to the attention of her caseworker. I tried to communicate with Cheyenne, who hung the phone up on me, said I was harassing her. Just rudeness to the point of, in a certain level of unprofessionalism myself I was subjected to. But I want to know that this agency is committed to not allowing them to just destroy landlord's property, leave owing money, and get fraud on paperwork and get vouchers for 2, 3, 4 bedrooms, and then walk away and still continue with a voucher with taxpayer people's money.
Yeah. We've done it. Yeah, it's about 3 minutes.
Appreciate your being here. A lot of what you brought to our attention is staff related. Our board, as we function, doesn't get involved necessarily in the day-to-day operations of the authority. We do take your concerns very seriously, but we also take a great deal of pride in the fact that we strive to provide the best quality housing that we can within the confines of what the federal government allows us to do. We go about our business pretty seriously. We certainly understand what you're speaking to, but there's,
Well, I just evicted a young lady.
Yeah, we don't.
She was evicted, she owes money, she destroyed my property.
Section 8 and
What
Section...
about your federal guidelines? Does she get to keep her voucher and just go and do it to another landlord and use taxpayer people's dollars?
But that's not the purview of us to decide what that
Well,
looks like.
whose
And
purview is it?
The federal government.
Okay, so should I file a complaint officially? With
I have no
HUD and
control over what you choose to do. I do control, with the board's input, we do control this meeting. We have an agenda that we have to go through. This isn't a time for us to go back and forth about what you choose to do as a landlord. You do.
I'm here asking for help and assistance,
And
and like, what do, and I'm not the only landlord that's been put in this position. I mean, I'm not, and
Yeah, that's not the purview of this board. It's not our job. I'm not,
well, who are you?
the board, the board of the authority.
The board is listed on, I'm asking what's your name?
Yeah, my name is Michael Whalen.
Okay, Mr. Whalen.
I chair the board, and I understand that you have concerns. The authority, the executive director, and staff have tried to address your concerns as best as possible, try to let you know.
By hanging the phone up on me?
Okay, well,
Alleging that I'm a harasser?
all right,
That's not me at all.
and respectfully, that's an issue for the executive director to handle if that indeed is the case. But regardless, regardless, we are at time. We have to go through our agenda. We certainly appreciate your feedback. You're welcome to come back anytime you'd like, to address this. I would ask that staff, keep an eye on it, and hopefully, your next experience, you've been doing this, as you said, for a while, your next experience and your next tenant is a little bit more respectful of your tenant agreement.
So I just have one more question. So there is no enforcement from the Housing Authority Section 8 Division to require the tenant to pay a portion of rent, not be evicted, not destroy people's property, and yet still they get to have the voucher?
Respectfully, that's an issue that every landlord has to address. Every landlord. Section 8, whatever. When you're in that business, unfortunately, sometimes people choose to act irrationally and behave poorly. We can't govern that.
But there is no federal guidelines that say that they can't do that, and they get suggest.
I'm not going to entertain this anymore.
No,
We're
I
done.
understand.
We're
If
done.
you can reach out to Fran, she'll coordinate, further discussion, okay?
Okay,
And so we can move
Fran, you have my
forward with our
email.
meeting, thank you.
I've sent several.
She will, if you could step out and have a conversation so we can
Okay.
proceed with our meeting, I appreciate it, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to say, Mr. Whalen, I feel somewhat being dismissed, but it's okay.
I'm not trying to
You
be.
don't, I mean.
We have rules
we're
about.
alone.
We have rules that, that they adhere to relative to time that residents or people who want to present to the board, and we gave you additional time. So I appreciate you being here, but we do have our business that we have to take care of.
Well, I just hope that the next person that comes, they don't leave out the room feeling the way I'm feeling. I really feel somewhat being dismissed and somewhat of a condescending attitude directed towards me.
Well, I apologize you feel that way.
Thank you.
Hey. Hi, all right. Walked in right at the right time.
Yeah.
So, on to our action items. I'll ask for a motion to approve our January 13th, 2026 Board of Commissioners meeting minutes.
Motion made.
Can I get a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion approved. Item number 02-26-06, resolution approving a a change order to the contract with DLC Electric Incorporated and authorizing the executive director to execute the change order and related documents regarding same. Chiquita?
Thank you, Chairman. This resolution is actually a contingency of the resolution that was already passed that allows the executive director to approve change orders not exceeding 10%. This particular change order actually did exceed the 10% threshold, which I'm allowed to approve, so therefore we're presenting it to the board for additional approval.
Anybody have any questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, being almost $2 million, how did they miss that? Was there something else that they're attributing it to, something that has to do with the generator, electrical upgrades and things like that? And they're
Yes.
saying that they didn't consider the code requirements. And was it a new requirement or something they totally missed?
The way that it was explained to me, because of the product that is going in, there was a new guideline that the cost did not include. So in order to, meet the code guidelines, they had to make those updates.
Okay, that was the only question I had. Just going through.
Any other questions, comments? Motion to approve? So moved. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Item number 02-26-07, a resolution approving the sale of 57 and 59 Mark Streets in the city of Albany. Chiquita?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. With this property, as you know, and Ms. Smith is most likely new to Commissioner, Stacy, I'm sorry. Commissioner Stacy, the board approved the,
Listing.
authorization for the listing of said properties of excess land that we own, and this is one of them, or two parcels in which we own that was put up for sale, and this is a response, for that particular property. So 57 and 59.
We have a number of properties that require us to do maintenance on them that are essentially either, some of them are vacant land, some of them.
This is vacant land.
Yes, these are vacant lands.
So, you know, we're responsible for it. The board decided sometime recently that we would enlist a broker. We went through an RFP process, chose a broker, and this broker is selling these pieces, which puts them back on the tax rolls. It's good for everybody.
Yes.
Somebody else is maintaining it.
So you will see these, and in some cases, they may come in at the last minute, which is why this one was just added, since we just got it yesterday. And to add to what Chairman just stated, some of that overhead is, you know, landscaping, snow removal, insurance, et cetera. So those are the things.
Properties that have no value.
No value. To us.
Not any, well, they, small value, but
Right,
we did make a little money on
we
it.
did.
Well, we're paying out more than we're,
In the long run, we have been, because it's land that has been sitting there, and we've been taking care of it, maintaining it, and so,
And the insurances.
yeah.
So any other, questions, comments, concerns? Motion to approve it? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Just a quick comment from my perspective, when we have you know, fortunately, we have a lot of the backstory that contradicts some of what Ms. Wilkinson claimed. She's been, reaching out, I don't know how many years has this been going on? So her suggestion that we're dismissive, you know, I certainly don't want her to feel that way, but at the same time, disparaging staff who've dealt with her for, I mean, literally, it's close to a decade now. She knows the business that she's in. She's a landlord. It doesn't work out perfectly, particularly in Section 8. And what she's asking us to do, we, as a board, have no authority to do that. hear her complaints. You know, you're probably more expert at this than I am, but, you know, it's the backstory, just so you know. I certainly wasn't trying to be dismissive of her, but this has been going on for a long time.
And I did step out and offer to meet with her and kind of go through a better explanation from our perspective as to where things stand. I think she just needs a little bit of talking to, conversation regarding the relative obligations of the parties. And I think many of the obligations that she thinks is on the housing authority is actually on her as a landlord. But we'll have that conversation. So we'll give it one more shot.
Yeah.
Federal government doesn't come into play at all.
No,
You
you
know,
can go on the HUD website.
as a recourse.
You can go on the HUD website and you can pull up what her rights and responsibilities are as a landlord, as well as the rights and responsibilities of the tenant. I did it. And I'm like, okay, no.
Okay, yeah.
So and my question was, why is she here? We don't have authority to override Chiquita. So you're here just, what?
Yeah.
And I just want to add, you know, what happens oftentimes, landlords or external, you know, interests want to know the happenings or internal happenings of a particular participant. They're not privy to that information. So what she's stating is whether or not we're not holding this, you know, this person accountable. She wouldn't know that. That's all based on assumption. And that's not information we would share with her in the first place. So we do follow rules and regulations. We do hold our participants accountable when warranted. But it's not her, you know, not for us to share.
Right. And what I would say is, if you remember, the public we're taking public comment. We're never gonna be able to resolve a person's issue that comes in here to speak to us. So I think it would behoove us, and I got in here late, up front to say, we don't engage, this isn't a discussion, we're receiving comment from you. If, you know, if we're gonna have an offline conversation later, we can do that, or however members choose to deal with it, we do, but it's not a back and forth, because this will always happen if we allow it. So I think.
I let her.
And you try, you feel for people, so.
I parsed it at the beginning, you have 3 minutes, that's our rule.
You didn't win 10 or 12.
Yeah, you give her a lot of time.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so this isn't a story that's new.
No.
It's you know, as long as there's been landlords, there's been people complaining about their landlords, so, and vice versa.
Yeah.
But it really is more of a staff issue than a board issue. Anyway.
Now me? All right, well, thank you. I don't have much to advise other than, you know, we're plugging along with Steamboat Phase 2. At some point, if you're interested, we can do some hard hat touring. I'm happy to arrange that for the board. In addition to that, on February 25th, I will be presenting and testifying on behalf of the New York State Public Housing Authority Directors Association at the joint legislative budget hearing to discuss and push for more funding for the state level of the Section 8 program, which is actually known as the Housing Access Voucher Program. So pushing additional funding in particular, and then also continually advocating for affordable insurance as it relates to redevelopment that housing authorities across the state of New York and the challenges that they're facing along with us as it relates to the increase in limited number of insurance companies that are willing to work with us, as well as the increase in cost and some of those challenges that we continue to face and get harder and harder for the redevelopment of our project. So I'll let you know how that goes, and hopefully that will bring some traction.
You want to do a brief update about our previous meeting today? Just brief.
Okay.
I can do it.
I will lean on you to just kind of give that brief discussion, and then I can add to it if there's a required me to, but very limited.
My notes, but. sure I'm accurate. Chiquita, myself and Brian had a brief discussion today, just to make sure that we're all on the same page relative to the disposition of Lincoln Towers and how directionally that's going. We're in a process of working with HUD to assure them that we've met their standards to dispose of the property. There's a couple of questions they have. We met with the folks from, I think, did the presentation to us, MRG. They've updated us on their steps, and it's sort of a challenge because we're moving on a parallel plane towards one goal, but very separate steps need to be taken in order for us to do what we have to do and for them to access money through the state budget process. I think we're pretty close to our next steps, and we're at where we want to be. There's a couple of questions about fair market value and what that looks like, and at the end of the day, how that fair market value gets translated if they absorb the costs of taking down the buildings, which is kind of why we got this thing going in the first place.
Sure.
We couldn't afford to do it on our own.
And if I just wanted to add real quick, Commissioner Weinglass, a lot of this occurred before you became part of the board, which will bring you up to speed offline, just so that you're aware of our discussion and what we're talking about.
Okay.
Okay.
But you're talking about the Lincoln Towers,
Yes.
the two vacant buildings, right?
Three
There's three?
towers,
Three.
yeah,
And the key word is vacant.
yeah,
Yeah, and they've been vacant for a while.
Yeah,
it's
well,
2021.
and HUD, one of the disposition questions is, if it's vacant, you don't have to go through this attempt to sell it at fair market value to resident group?
Well,
Which
they're
is-
suggesting that, but when we shuttered the property, then every resident had to get an offer. To, we had to offer them the opportunity to purchase it. So what we're saying is, we did that before we emptied the building.
Oh, to purchase the whole.
Yeah.
Correct. You have to do
I'll
that.
take
That's
two.
part of the requirement. And,
You're not gonna bought it?
so we already took care of that requirement,
Yes,
but
indeed.
they're now saying we need to do
It's
the
a-
same.
It's an arcane,
To a group.
it's an arcane,
Yeah.
HUD rule that makes little to no sense, but we're trying to make sure that we go through the right steps. I think we're gonna get to the point where we push back a little on HUD and they say, because it's been vacant for so long, we don't have to go through this next step.
We don't want to lose these guys.
Well, yeah, no, we're scheduling another meeting, and I've already, given pushback, but, we got it
We're
in
gonna
writing
use one
that
of
this is a requirement, so.
We're gonna
we have-
use one of their resources to help maybe.
Yeah, so we're gonna, upcoming next few weeks, we'll have a conversation and see what they say regarding that. But we're all, just making sure we're in alignment, making sure that we're following
And
every,
communicating
yeah,
steps along the way, because
correct.
June is not too far around the corner, and we'll have to go to whatever next step is, and assuming we get to one more step, we'll have a board resolution then, and then we'll have a final one, assuming we get to that point, that disposes of the property from
But I-
our
Correct. And I think the key
Portfolio.
takeaway today, more than anything, is nothing is set in stone and nothing is final. There's communication, and, there's steps that we're taking, but there's no final decision until the board says it's final. I think that's really the huge takeaway.
And it might be two times, yeah.
Correct.
Final.
So, anything that's being heard outside of that is incorrect. So I just want to make sure that we're being clear on that.
Can I ask just an open question?
You absolutely can.
I was reading about, HUD in DC was requiring all public housing authorities to provide citizenship information. Is that impacting us as well?
That's every housing authority in the country,
Yes.
it's not just DC. We all received a letter, we all have to, but let me just be
Kind
clear.
of, it's already being
Well-
done more or less anyway, but.
To be honest, what is confusing is that that is a requirement for anyone who's in. You have to verify before anyone takes Section 8, gets Section 8, before anyone moves into our properties, we have to verify citizenship. And when there are non-citizens that are part of the household, they don't get subsidy. That household in particular is prorated based on the number of citizens in the household. So there are no federal dollars as it relates to housing in Section 8 that are currently going towards the individuals who are non-citizens.
They could still get the apartment, but they have to.
They
pay full
only
price
get
for it.
they only get the apartment if they're part of a household that has citizens, but they don't get subsidy. So for an example, you might have a family of 5, but only 3 members are citizens. Those 2 do not qualify for citizenship, thus they get a prorated subsidy within that household.
Understood. Well, I will go.
But not new.
It's nothing new, that's my point. This is
Right.
something that we do. You can't add someone without verifying citizenship.
What is new is the federal government stressing
Yes.
this.
Yeah,
So, but what they want to do.
and then a time frame.
They essentially want us to go door to door.
They gave housing authorities pretty much less than a month or so to verify and go through the system through SAVE, which basically would require, let's just say, we have 25, give or take 2,300 units. If they were 100% full, and in some cases housing authorities are, right? In some cases they're not. Based on what we're interpreting and how we're interpreting it, you would have to touch every single household in less than that time frame to verify, reconfirm that these individuals who already confirmed whether or not they were citizens are true, in fact, citizens. That's a hardship within itself. It's impossible. It's impossible. So there's a lot of talk about that. There's a lot of pushback. You've heard me talk about, leading industry organizations, one being one that I just spoke about, FADA, CLAPA, NARO, all of these various organizations that are, giving us guidance, but also advocating on behalf of not just residents, but the housing authorities with hopefully, trying to gain some understanding of what's the true intent and what is truly expected of the housing authorities when we already do this before anyone actually moves in.
We already know the intent, but
Well,
what happens if you don't meet the goal?
well, there's threatened that there's threat that you could lose funding. So, you have to make some attempt. That's what we're trying to do, but it's impossible when you have thousands of households and then you rely on them getting back your information, responding to you, being available. You're basically determining eligibility again when you do it annually as well.
The national organizations too are pushing back. I mean, we're a relatively, medium-sized housing authority.
Depending on where
Imagine one of
it's
the-
large, depending on where you go.
Imagine one of the, 20,000 tenant ones.
Well, yeah, and that's the concern. Consider NYCHA,
Right, yeah, it's like, oh, God.
Mess.
But I think, it's important to push the narrative and understanding. These are things that we have to verify prior to anyone getting in our our housing or receiving Section 8. We have to verify them. And anyone who's not considered a citizen, that household in particular is subsidized.
I'm just saying it's rather ridiculous.
And there's
Because I'm a citizen and I had to go get a whole brand new birth certificate just to prove I was who I was.
Well, yeah. So you know what we have to go through.
Yeah.
And then, you know, there's this challenge, you know, there's this push, that, you know, any household who has non-citizens in there will further be deemed ineligible as an entire household. So there's a fight and, you know, advocacy on behalf of that as well. That was some proposed ruling, not necessarily, active at the moment, but, you know, there's some discussions, there's some advocacy along the way. You can find that information if you Google it. You know, it's readily available. But these are some challenging times, and, you know, housing authorities struggle to keep up with the ever-ending changing rules and regulations that have, in some cases, been in existence for quite some time, and then having to pivot, you know, as things get pushed down and timeframes and deadlines are, you know, enforced. So we do what we can, we stay afloat, and that's all we can do. But, you know, that again, in the times of limited funding and subsidy, you're pushing these hardships amongst housing authorities and their staff, which then in turn, what happens? Staff has to keep up with the eligibility process as required, right? In addition to that, maintain properties, but in addition to that, meet these demands, which then pushes you into possibility of having to utilize overtime, which then exceeds budget authority, because it's pushing up the cost, right? Because you got to pay individuals overtime in order to meet these new demands and maintain day-to-day operations. It's very challenging. But I, in my capacity, as well as, you know, other housing authorities, will do what we can to, you know, try to push out that realization narrative and understand the impact that these rules are having on housing authorities and families.
With all due respect, better you than me, I don't see where I could ever do what you guys do. And that's what makes it that much more enjoyable to be looking at it from this side and being able to hopefully intercede with people from the community, because they don't have the slightest idea. Most of them don't have the slightest idea. And I know you're working on that piece as well, as far as getting our narrative out there, what you guys do, what they can expect. That's going to be huge. Also, you know, our responsibility. Because that wasn't the first time that happened when somebody leaves, you know. I wasn't heard, no, that's you weren't heard. Like Mike says, we've got an agenda, and most of this stuff is outside of what we're supposed to do as a board.
And it also helps to follow protocol, because if you've noticed that that individual asked to meet with me here, never asked to meet with me prior to. But that tends to be the narrative, you know, the process in this, I would just say, space. They tend to want to go over my head and then realize that they have to actually speak with me.
That you're the head.
You know, but the key thing is, you know, just try to push out the truth, the narrative that is, you know, worthy, as opposed to individuals making assumptions rather than going to the source, and really, you know, working together. Because, you know, you'd be surprised when you bring information or concern to the right people, how much can be actually resolved
100%.
in a timely manner and effective. And you leave knowing as opposed to guessing.
Yeah.
That concludes my advice. Thank you, Chairman.
Anybody else? Questions, comments, concerns? All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion made.
Oh, boy, listen, you guys want.
Everybody's waiting.
Second. All in favor? Aye.